Hi everyone, this is Andre. In this video I'd like to show you how to use light effects and textures to produce nice displays in XFLR5. And I'll do this using the sample project which is provided together with the program. I'll use the sample plane with the fuselage for the purpose of the demonstration. One thing I'd like to mention is that this is based on V613. Some of the features here will not be available in the former versions, so I really recommend that you use V613, which also fixes a number of bugs if you're still using older versions. So to demonstrate or to understand how the light works, let's bring up the light options dialog box here in the context menu. The light model used in XFLR5 is the so-called Blinn-Phong model, which you can check on the internet. It's classic, it's one of the very first models which was built for CAD programs, and it's although it's old and classic, it's very effective, as we'll see. When we brought up this dialog box here, we also produced, well, the light was displayed as a white sphere here on the screen. We can move this light around using these sliders in the middle here. The X, Y, Z coordinates refer to screen coordinates, not the axes which are painted here on the screen. The X is left to right, Y is up and down, and Z is front and back. So there we are. Let's reset to the defaults. The default provides you a standard way, standard settings to produce a good looking display. In the Blinn-Phong model, the light is broken down into three components, which are the ambient light, the diffuse light, and the specular light. And we'll examine each of them in turn. So let's turn all of them off and start playing around with them. The ambient light is well, if I move this mouse on the slider, it should show up an explanation. Let's see. Ambient light is bounced light, which has been scattered so much that it's impossible to tell the direction to its source. It is not attenuated by distance and disappears if the light is turned off. So this is the kind of light you will have on a cloudy day, no visible sun, and the light has been reflected by the clouds so much that you're unable to tell where it came from in the first place. Let's increase its power a bit. Well, the ambient light produces a uniform plain color on all the surfaces. Nothing special to say. Yeah, because it's been bounced and it doesn't come from any specific direction, it's not dependent on the light position, and we can check this by playing around with the sliders. So the light doesn't change here. Right, let's turn this one off and look at the diffuse light. Now diffuse light, well, let's look at the definition. It's directional light which is brighter on perpendicular surfaces. Its reflection is scattered evenly. So the idea is that if you imagine a straight line which goes from the light to a surface, for instance the fuselage here, the light that hits here will be scattered evenly in all directions, but with more intensity in the perpendicular surface in the perpendicular direction to the surface, and some of it will be reflected towards our eye, and this is why we see this lighting effect. This time the light is dependent on the lighting is dependent on the light position, which we can check by moving the slider around. Right, let's turn this one off and look at specular light. Specular light is a bit different. It's associated with shininess. Now let's look at the definition here. It's directional light which tends to reflect in a preferred direction. It is associated with shininess. The shininess you can set here. The shininess of your model you can set here. This is a very shiny surface, so this you could imagine is almost the surface, let's say, of a car. You can see reflections on a car. This is associated to shininess. It means that the light which strikes the surface is reflected in the opposite direction to the surface's normal. Well, this is a bit technical, but once again you can imagine the surface of a car, of a screen. We all know what shininess is, in fact. So the diffuse light, well, it strikes the surface, it goes off in all directions because the surface is rough. If the surface is shiny, it's reflected preferably opposite to the light. So if I move the light backwards, well, it strikes the surface and it goes towards my eye. And really that's all there is to it. The light, the effective light, is the sum of these three components here. One thing which I should have mentioned is that both diffuse and specular light are dependent on the distance to the light. That means the light's power decreases with the distance from the light to the surface. I've set it as to decrease proportionally to the distance here. So if I move the light up, we should see the light, or towards me, we should see the intensity decreasing here. If I move it towards the model, the light progressively increases. Right, and while playing with these three variables here, the amplitude, the power of each light component and the material shininess, you can achieve nice results to your liking. And I'll let you play with it. It's better to experiment. Okay. Let's look now at textures. Now, textures were introduced in V6.13. What are textures? Textures are basically just plain images that are painted on the surfaces here. They are set by bringing up the wing edition box and just checking this button here. So this is the default texture which has been proposed in XFLR5, and I'll show you how to build your own. Okay, we can see that the mixture of lights and textures can produce some really nice effects here. Let's do the same for the other surfaces, the elevator and the fin and the body. Right, so now we have textures on all surfaces. Now I'll reset the light options to their default so that you can see it more clearly. Basically, the images that I've predefined are painted on each of the wing's surfaces. Together with the project file, I've included this explanation here. So if your project's name is sample project, for instance, here, sample project, you should define just next to the project file a first directory with the name sample project textures. And just be careful if your OS is case sensitive, such as it is the case in Linux. And inside this directory, you will create subdirectories for the models for which you want some textures. Now, you don't need to define textures for all the model. You can leave them out if you wish. And in each subdirectory you will define one file for each of the surface on which you want a texture. Again, you can leave some out, in which case you will either get the default texture or a plain color depending on your selection. One thing is that these images should have size, width and height which are powers of 2. That is usually recommended in OpenGL. It's supposed to make the display faster, but it's not strictly compulsory. Okay, now the image which will be painted on the wing, now let's suppose this is your image here. Well, the texture will make use only of the green part here, which is inside the outline which can be drawn on the image file. So what happens is that the image is stretched in both width and height direction to fit the outline of the wing, and then only the green part is used and is painted on the wing. These are unused region. This is meant to minimize the distortion of your images once they are painted on the wing. For the body, it's a bit different. The whole image is used, and it's stretched, shrunk, distorted, whatever, to fit and to be rolled on the fuselage side. Okay, so let's see how I did it. I've got this sample project and the sample project texture directory here with my images. And let's suppose I want to change the texture on the wing top left surface. So I'll open this and let's make it simple. Bring in just a plain circle here. This way. Okay, and another one maybe just for fun. A rectangle. Okay, I'll save this and we'll see how it shows on the wing. Right, so I'll just reload by reselecting the body here, and we can see that the texture has changed. It's almost not distorted, as I explained. It's really painted and it's cut on the wing's outline. And you can do this for all your surfaces and for the body surfaces. So if you want to check the file names, well, you can look them up in this sample project and have fun. And if you come up with nice 3D views, please send me a screenshot together with the name of the model and the description, and I'll be glad to show them on the website. Thank you all.